course, I live in the bubble of my own reality, but for those who aren't aware, there has been a rampage of vitriol that we have faced since the show was even announced, when it was still just a concept and when no one had even seen it. And that's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper-conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language.
So, dated from October the 3rd, we've got a Variety article, Toxic Fandom, How Hollywood is Battling Fans Who Are Just Out for Blood, from social media boot camps to superfan focus groups. This is awesome. So let's start. On August 28th, Amanda Stenberg, the lead of the Star Wars series The Acolyte, posted an 8.5-minute video in her Instagram stories about Lucasfilm's abrupt decision not to pick up the show for the second season, just a month after the season 1 finale streamed on Disney+. It's not a huge shock for me, Stenberg said. Since the series was announced in 2020, she continued, we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper-conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language toward us. Stenberg was unavailable to comment for this story. Of course not. Why would she be? She made her statement, even though, it's mostly in the fact of criticism. Look, I'm not going to say that there were not people coming in there and then saying all kind of crap. There are 10% of just about everything that you're going to get online is going to be garbage people. And that's from the left and from the right. Actually, okay, from the right 10%, from the left about 50. Anyway, so let's go. In other words, The Acolyte was the latest high-profile target of toxic fandom, the catch-all term for when fan criticism curdles from good faith dissatisfaction into a relentless, negative, often bigoted online campaign against either the project or its stars or creative leaders. In a franchise economy increasingly dependent upon established audience devotion to drive the bottom line, the threat of toxic fandom's poisoning that enthusiasm has become a seemingly intractable headache for almost every studio, and it's only getting worse. It's getting worse because nothing's getting better. Look, there's a huge quality break. And look, some of you are going to say you're coming back to The Acolyte right now after doing some politics, and you didn't finish your reviews of the episode, of the last episodes of The Acolyte. And you know what? I didn't. It was depressing because there's only so many times that you can say bad acting, bad story, and I mean, it's just inconsistent all the way around. There was nothing about that show that was good. Even the special effects were problematic at times. So it's just this is why it seems so vitriolic from one end. Mainly because what happens is that the return to the criticism of the actual product is always, you're racist because we have black people in this. Or whatever minority group you want to pick that is used as a shield these days. And this is the problem. Nobody is taking the criticism as it is. They're always countering with, oh, you don't like it because this character's black. You don't like it because this character's a woman. You don't like it because this character is gay. It has nothing to do with that. Give us really good characters, stories, and we'll be fine. But the problem is that it's not. DEI has gotten to the point where what it's doing is it's hiring people based solely on their genetics and not on their talent. There is absolutely no reason for this. There is a reason for it. And the reason for it is within the Marxist takeover of the country, or the attempted Marxist takeover of the country. If you go back and you look at the history of Marxism, you will find that they had to crush economies to get people to go to their side because they were the saviors at that point. This is how Marxism works. People are saying, why would you crush the economy when they talk about Bidenomics and everything? They're crushing the economy so they can lock down on everything. Look at what happened after 9/11. They created the Department of Homeland Security, for crying out loud. I'm telling you right now, that's not a great organization. COVID. Every time there has been a major problem that has caused major dysfunction about the country, the government has used this, or portions of the government have used this, to take over more and more of our rights. And that's basically what's going on right now. It's not only politics, it's within entertainment. They fight in every angle that they can. Remember, one of the concepts they go by, the personal is politics. So this is why you're seeing a lot of this stuff. This is why this is, like I said, this is why this is going on. It comes with the territory, but it's gotten incredibly loud over the last couple of years, says veteran marketing executive at a major studio. People are just out for blood regardless. They think the purity of the first version will never be replaced, or you've done something to upset the canon of a beloved franchise, and they're going to take you down for doing so. Yeah, okay? For giving everybody The Last Jedi, yes, you deserve to be taken down. That was a horrible movie. I watched it once. It took me at least 4 hours to get it through because I kept stopping to do something else and getting interested in something else. But that was the last time I watched that movie. It was an absolute flying piece of crap. Sometimes toxic fandoms behave reactively. A House of the Dragon episode featuring 2 female characters kissing and an episode of The Last of Us focusing on a gay couple were both review bombed. The practice of mobbing sites like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb with negative user reviews, which gained mainstream attention following the premiere of 2017's Star Wars The Last Jedi, and an entire YouTube ecosystem is devoted to declaring projects like The Marvels and The Boys woke garbage, among other pungent sobriettes. God. Okay, first off, The Marvels was terrible. The Boys is woke garbage. I mean, The Boys is worse than woke garbage. The first season of The Boys was actually really good. The second season, it took me a little bit because, yeah, I got angry that they gender swapped Stormfront. But after I watched a couple episodes, I got into it. I actually liked the character. I had changed my mind. But the way that they ended the second season, I mean, come on, man. You can only handle so many Duex Maves. Seriously, I think in one episode, Maeve saved the day like 3 times. That's such shitty writing, it's not even funny. Just as frequently, the backlash begins before the project has seen the light of day. A Reddit megathread dedicated to outrage over Bridgerton casting a black woman, Melissa Baduza, as the love interest for Francesca Hannah Dodd, social media epithets directed at the actors of color cast as elves and dwarves in The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, death threats aimed at Leslie Jones during the press tour of 2016's Ghostbusters. Honestly, I don't remember seeing them, and I'm not going to say they weren't there because there are a lot of nitwits in the world, but Leslie Jones' criticism in Ghostbusters was justified. She was awful. And as far as the Rings of Power is concerned, look, you have changed the entire history and storyline just to throw in your DEI elements. It's not that there are black elves. Dude, make another movie where there are black elves. We'll deal with it. Not deal with it. We'll probably like it. I mean, come on. All right, but the thing is that The Lord of the Rings was created as English mythology, okay? And we can have the discussion about how many different races and all that have been on the English island or the British Isles, but when it comes right down to it, that had nothing to do with what Tolkien was looking at. That's why they have a problem with it. It has nothing to do with there's a black elf. It's there's a black elf where there shouldn't be a black elf in Tolkien. Perhaps the greatest irony of this phenomenon is the disproportionate impact these toxic fandoms have relative to their actual number. The vast majority of any fandom are casual fans, says John Von Peters, VP of Star Trek Brand Development. Oh yeah, this is a guy that you want to listen to, who has been with the storied franchise since the 1990s. The number of people who live and die on their franchise are very, very few, and then those who come after things that they espouse to love with venom are a really, really tiny subset of that already smaller subset of fandom. It's just much easier to see it now. I don't know that it's really that much broader than things were in 1995. It's just that the bullhorn wasn't there. Yes, the bullhorn wasn't there, and the vast majority of people who couldn't view their displeasure with what was going on now can. How about that trash? And, you know, honestly, I'm going to say this, and nobody's going to like it, but I thought The Next Generation was greatly trash. So, there, I did. For some, combating that bullhorn amounts as to acting as if they can't hear, pardon me, particularly when it's a negative, toxic conversation. We don't even engage, says TV marketing executive. Like with toxic people, you try not to give it too much oxygen. One principal concern is that reacting to these kinds of attacks risks alienating fans who are unhappy with the creative choices about a franchise, but haven't tipped over the abusive behavior. You started out calling everyone who had a critique of either Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings as racists. You started that way. if you had just gone on and say, well, we did this, this, and this, but you didn't. It came out with, oh, you're all conservative racists. So please, okay, look to yourselves. So a studio may attempt to amplify friendlier voices instead, will reply to comments that are positive and elevate those things, said the TV exec. Still, toxic fandoms have grown so pernicious that they've become a fact of life for many, and so powerful that while talent, executive, and publicists will privately bemoan the issue, fear of inadvertently triggering another backlash kept several studios from speaking for the story even on background. As one rep put it, it's just a lose-lose. Yes, it's a lose-lose because your product is crap. And that's the problem. Your product is crap. Those who did talk with Variety all agreed that the best defense is to avoid provoking fandoms in the first place. In addition to standard focus group testing, studios will assemble a specialized cluster of superfans to assess possible marketing materials for a major franchise project. They're very vocal, said the studio exec. They will just tell us, if you do that, fans are going to retaliate. These groups have even led studios to alter projects. If it's early enough and the movie isn't finished yet, we can make those kinds of changes. You know, you wouldn't have to make those kinds of changes if, in effect, you had a good product to begin with. In some particularly egregious cases, a direct response has been necessary. In 2022, after Obi-Wan Kenobi actor Moses Ingram denounced the hundreds of racist messages sent to her about her role, there's nothing anybody can do about this. There's nothing anybody can do to stop this hate, she said. Lucasfilm posted a statement to its Star Wars social media accounts that read, in part, there are more than 20 million sentient species in the Star Wars galaxy. Don't choose to be a racist. The Star Wars accounts also shared a video of Obi-Wan star Ewan McGregor saying the abuse made him sick to my stomach, and that if you're sending her bullying message, you're no Star Wars fan in my mind. Look, the Obi-Wan was just terrible. It wasn't good. There are parts of that are literally high comedy. And the fact that you have a character that's been stabbed through the gut with a lightsaber twice and survives. I mean, seriously, let's just get over this fact, okay? There's some things that, I mean, honestly, it was terrible. It's just some things you just can't abide. Later that year, the cast of Rings of Power condemned the relentless racism, threats, harassments, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. And the actors from Lord of the Rings film trilogy posted photos of themselves wearing clothing featuring the ears of Middle-earth creatures in multiple skin tones underneath the message, "You are welcome here," written in Elvish. Those efforts may have had an effect. In an August interview with Amazon MGM Studios TV chief Vernon Sanders about The Rings of Power, the executive said that the show hadn't experienced the same racist hostility in advance of Season 2 that it had greeted it in its 2022 debut. People have had the chance to actually engage with the show, overwhelmingly, and what we've seen is that folks who came in with an open mind can discuss and debate their favorite things, which takes you out of the place of that ugly conversation that happens with some folks who may have been infused with an agenda that's separate from the show itself. All right, look. We've talked about black elves. The whole point of elves. Remember, Tolkien derived the word elf. I can't remember the original word, but it means bright. Okay, bright. Elves are bright. They're not dark. That's what we're going off of. Elves have that bright visage. That's the one thing. As far as black dwarves are concerned, you live underground. You live underground. Dark skin is a reaction by melanin to sunlight. To sunlight! How is somebody's melanin content going to increase when they live under flippin' ground? Okay? That's the other point. And the other thing is they're supposed to have beards and look like men anyway. You're not supposed to be able to tell the difference between dwarf males and females. I mean, honestly. Read, for crying out loud. There is one other way to handle toxic fans on the internet. Stay off it. I'm not online, so I'm protected, says frequent Marvel star Elizabeth Olsen, WandaVision. Generally, it's a lot of positive experience of making kids happy. I ignore the other stuff. Well, I mean, to be able to do this stuff, you're pretty much going to have to be able to ignore this thing. So, this is pretty much... I cannot tell you how much this infuriates me. To come on here and to create a situation where you're condemning a group of people in such harsh tones just because your product is crap. And the thing is that just because it contains more minorities, more blacks, more women, more homosexuals, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't matter. If it's crap, it's crap. Well, anyway, folks, thank you very much. I decided today to fixate on this because it has been one of those things that has been festering for a long time. Like, share, subscribe, guys. I do think I sound better now. I think I have defeated the problem. You know what you should do? You should subscribe so you can go with me on this journey to figure out if I can still keep this mic working. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. I will see you later. Later days.